Hello, I'm Claire from Wild Ginger Running and I'm here with Shane Benzie, a movement coach from Running Reborn. So Shane, what is so important about running technique?
Well, I think when most people think about running and when they're training and practicing, they're really thinking about their engine and how fit they are. But I look at running really as a movement skill, and it's a skill that you kind of practice and get better at. And if we move in the way that humans were designed to move, that by default makes us a good athlete. It means that we load the body better, so we're a lot less likely to get injured, and it means we can kind of move faster for longer. So I think we should all be thinking more about our movement and our technique.
I totally agree with you. I think it could really improve my running. And I know that you've been all over the world researching this, haven't you? Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so my work over the last 7 years has been based on 6 continents, in lots of different environments and often extreme environments. So I've worked in deserts and jungles and the Arctic and all sorts of different environments. I spend a lot of time in Africa. And I work with athletes of all abilities, from complete beginners to elites, but I also work with a lot of indigenous people as well, because as I said earlier, if we move the way in which a human was designed to move, that by default makes us a good athlete. So you don't have to have a race number on to do something incredible with your body. But all of these things we learn, all the things that I'm trying to understand about efficiency of movement, I can then coach to athletes, and it seems to work really well.
Fantastic. So then you bring that knowledge back to the UK and you're coaching runners here?
Yes. A lot of our movement is influenced really heavily by our perception of it. What we think is happening as we're running has a huge bearing on the movement itself. So if we change that perception, the athlete immediately starts to move in a different way.
So I should emerge from today a better runner?
Oh, without a doubt.
With no extra training?
No, absolutely not. You know, I think actually many of us are overtraining. I think we run too many miles because, you know, really we base all of our running ability on our engine. And so every mile we run, we're really looking to create more fitness or maintain what we've got. I wonder how many miles extra we run a week to create this incredible engine that makes up for inefficient movement. If we get you moving efficiently, you may be able to get away with running maybe 70% of the miles that you're running, which will allow more time for recovery. So maybe less miles.
That sounds really interesting. Okay. Definitely up for running less miles. Okay, let's see what I can do on running around this field then.
Okay, looking forward to it.
Nice and warm now. Tired now.
Right, brilliant. So we mentioned earlier that there's various mistakes that are common to most runners.
Sure.
So should we now see if I'm making any of them?
Okay. Well, I think actually you moved pretty well, to be fair, and you did a really good job of moving naturally as well. One of the big things is foot contact. You've got 250,000 nerve endings on the bottom of your foot, and if we land the foot in the right way, those nerve endings are going to send a lot of information up into the body, telling us about our surroundings and how to move within them. We also want the foot to create a lot of elasticity, and also the foot has a very big job of dissipating the impact that's coming back at you. So every time your foot hits the ground, if you take your body weight and times that by 2.5, that's the impact coming back at you. Now, we shouldn't be scared of impact as a runner. Impact is actually our friend because it turns into elastic energy which propels us forward, but only if it dissipates around the body correctly. If it doesn't, then it beats us up. So if we don't land that foot well, it can be an issue. So should we have a look at how your foot's landing and whereabouts? So it's how the foot lands and whereabouts in relation to your body that it lands. And if you look on the video, you'd see it tends to land a little way in front of you. Yep. So a little bit of maybe what we tend to call overstriding, and we don't want that. We want the foot landing more underneath the body. And also, the foot tends to lead with a heel a little bit. Okay? Do you feel that happens?
No,
or?
I feel like I'm landing on my toes, but from here it looks like I'm perhaps not landing on my toes.
Well, you know, the foot is an incredibly clever thing, but actually it can really trick you. So, if we look at the foot, there is your foot, and on the bottom of the foot, as I said, you've got that 250,000 nerve endings. Yep. And that's the nerve network on your foot. There are two types of nerve endings. Exteroceptors, they tell you about how much impact you've created and how the ground felt. Was it bumpy? Was it soft? Was it moving? Was it hard? Then you have proprioceptors. They give you your spatial awareness, and they also give you your perceived rate of exertion, how hard you're trying. So it's incredibly important when we land the foot that we get that information. Now, you're landing here, and as you can see, if you look at the nerve network, there aren't actually really many nerves on the heel at all. So your initial contact, you don't overly feel. And your trainers are also built in a way to kind of cushion that impact of the heel. So not only are there no nerve endings, you've actually got more rubber there as well.
Oh my goodness. I really thought I was landing on my midfoot.
Sure.
I thought I trained myself after reading Born to Run by Chris McDougall.
Yeah, great book. Yeah.
That's so interesting. So I'm actually not, from that video footage, I'm not landing on my
you're not.
forefoot.
You're landing on your heel, and then that's created a pretty big break. If you land your leg out in front of you on a heel, you've kind of stuck the brakes on. Because you've stuck the brakes on, you then have to accelerate off, and you accelerate off from here, where there are lots of nerve endings. So your overriding sensory memory of the footfall is of the forefoot, because that's the bit you felt, whereas actually the initial contact was with the heel.
That is incredible. I never realised that.
Yeah.
So is this a common problem, would you say?
Yeah, without a doubt. I think if I had 100 people run around here today, and I do over the period of a month, probably 85% would land on their heel in sort of varying degrees.
And that's not as good for balance, especially with trail running, because of the lack of nerve endings there.
It's not good. Yeah, it's not good from a proprioceptive point of view. If you're on trail, more than ever, you need to be able to react to the environment because it isn't consistent. But also landing on the heel creates what's called a loose adapter. So if you land on your heel, the foot will rock and roll to the point of least resistance every time. That's not so bad on manicured grass like we just did for the analysis, or on concrete. But if you're on trail and you're landing on something that's constantly rocking and rolling, that's a massive problem. It really can create injury and at the very least be inefficient. So what we're looking for from the foot, from a foot contact point of view, is what I call a tripod landing or a full foot landing. So I want you to start, when you go back out in a moment, to think about your foot landing with these three areas of the foot landing at the same time, okay? If we can get that tripod landing going on, that will give us stability. We use tripods for stability. It will also, as you can see, maximize those nerve endings so that they're making contact straight away with the ground, giving you loads of really, really exciting information. If we land on the forefoot, you're still landing on a loose adapter, but on a far more intricate part of the foot. And if you land on your forefoot, you're still going to have the problem of utilizing some of the nerves, but these nerves will never ever make contact with the ground. My work is based on my research, and that research has been over the 7 years of watching athletes all around the world moving, and indigenous people. And I think if we want to understand as an athlete how to use the foot, we just need to look at how the human foot was designed. So a forefoot landing isn't good. Maybe if you were sprinting, that would be fine. But if you're doing anything for any length of time, we really need to make sure that the foot is utilised in the right way, which I believe is a tripod landing.
Tripod landing. Okay, so rather than thinking about forefoot landing, we should all be thinking about tripod landing.
Or full foot.
Or full foot.
Full foot,
landing.
yeah. So the whole of the foot coming down at the same time. Yep. When we walk, we are designed to land on our heel and roll through. Now, one of the big problems we have is, if we're not careful, is that our running gait just becomes an extension of our walking gait. Okay. Our run is almost an energetic walk.
Well, mine is.
Actually, it wasn't too bad. But especially if we're doing endurance stuff. Yeah, if we're sprinting, that's not the case. But if we're doing endurance stuff that's going to be going on for some time, if we're not careful, we do tend to start landing on a straight leg on a heel. and that will beat us up, and it will certainly slow us down. So our running gait should be very different from our walking gait.
So tripod landing.
Tripod landing.
Brilliant. Okay, so I'm going to try for a tripod landing, and what else?
And that tripod landing, really, we want more underneath the body as well. Yeah. So we saw from the video analysis, it's actually in front of you. Yep. So it's creating a break, and it's on a pretty straight leg as well. Now, if you imagine, we said you've got 2.5 times your body weight coming back at you as you land. That 2.5 times your body weight, if it's coming up a very straight line, that's a better conductor. Yeah, the best conductor for anything is a straight line. So, and we want to try and get the foot landing more underneath the body. Yep, so on a softer knee, underneath the body, with a fuller foot landing.
Okay.
Really what we want to try and do, as I say, is get you so that your stride is actually circling underneath you. Okay. When I first started to go to Africa to research African runners, it was one of the things that I saw was the runners moving with incredible fluidity and elasticity in their body. And I came back to the UK to try and find out why that might be. And I came across the fascial system, the elastic system in the body, but also this concept of tensegrity. And this is a tensegrity model. And the idea of tensegrity, or bio-tensegrity for you as a human, is that all the bones in your body are floating, okay? No bone touches another bone in your body. If it did, it would hurt, okay? So this is a really good analogy. The wood is your bones, and the elastic system that is holding this model together, creating its sea of tension, is your fascial system. Tendons, ligaments, and then everything is coated in something called myofascia. So your skeleton is actually just floating around in your body as you move. So if you put height into that system, any movement you make starts to create recoil in the body. Any movement your arms make will recoil back to their original position if we put height in the body. If we run around bending from the waist with our head down, we lose that height, so we lose the tension.
We lose elasticity and efficiency.
Yeah, elasticity is for free.
Wow, that kind of blows my mind. Actually, it's the muscles that are holding the skeleton in place.
The muscles, the fascia, they're creating this sea of tension that our skeleton sits in. The skeleton plays a very, very important part, but it isn't this solid rack that everything else kind of hangs off. And the really exciting thing about this elastic system that creates this sea of tension for our body, you know, it's never more than 7 months old. So it will completely rejuvenate and re-architect itself over a 7-month period. Let's take you outside, let's get you doing it in a different way, and you can see the old you versus the new you.
Yeah. Okay, so that was weird. I felt really weird. I felt like I was leaning back, but
Absolutely.
From here, I kind of look better.
No, it does, it looks good. And I think that's where it's really, really important to see yourself move. And that's why everything I do is videoed. So you're definitely running with more height in the body, I think it's fair to say. And that head is at a really nice position now. So you can see you are kind of creating tension in that body, yeah, but tension in a good way, tension in as much as you're putting tension in your elastic system, okay? So when your leg comes through the stride, it's got a much better chance of coming through with elastic recoil if you've put height in your body. If you're bent from the waist, there's no tension in that body at all, and you're not going to enjoy elastic recoil. So that's really, really important. We're also looking at the footfall, and we wanted that foot landing with a tripod landing, and we wanted it landing underneath you as well. So I think you did a pretty good job of that, to be fair. Very good.
Oh, it's much more underneath.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where I actually land, but still a little bit forward though.
I think by the time you actually land,
yeah,
it's underneath you on a much softer knee.
Yeah, it definitely is less forward than
Yeah,
last time,
absolutely.
isn't it?
Yeah, the overstriding has gone, but actually you're getting more air in your run, so your vertical oscillation has gone up. We're often told that we should keep our vertical oscillation, the bounce in our run, if you like, to an absolute minimum. But that's not true. Vertical oscillation is a beautiful thing. It's something that we should celebrate and use as an athlete.
It's just whether I can maintain that once I'm out in the wild.
Yeah, once you're released into the community. Yeah, it's always a challenge. And I think practice little and often is the way to go with that, because it is pretty cognitive at first. You have to think about it quite a lot. And it's also more cardiovascular challenging at first. And you want to give your body time to adjust to this new movement. So short 20-minute sessions of running around and really thinking about all the stuff that we're doing today, 3-4 times a week in the early stages is a really good way of doing it. And then you can kind of build up the mileage onto that.
Okay, so I'm definitely going to practice that when I get home.
Excellent.
Weird as it seems, weird as it feels. But how can people get in front of you to get this done for themselves? Like they could video themselves, of course, and
sure.
touch on the points that we've raised here. But
yeah.
You also do workshops and you do individual coaching. Is that right?
Yeah. So I work with all abilities on a one-to-one basis, but I also do workshops as well, which is a pretty economical way of doing it. You're with 9 other runners, so you get to see lots of other people running and have fun within a group. Lots of video analysis throughout the day and cover lots of theory as well. I don't think there's an athlete on the planet or a runner on the planet who doesn't benefit from seeing themselves move and maybe working on their kind of perception of their movement.
Fantastic. Well, it's definitely given me some food for thought. I'm going to be changing my running style if I can.
Be interesting to see how you get on.
Yeah, so thanks very much for giving me a coaching session, Shane.
Pleasure.
And I'll see you next time for some uphill technique maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we'll get out on those hills.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Pleasure.